This podcast is sponsored by The Generational Algorithm by Francisco Castillo. Discover how to rewrite the emotional code passed down through generations and transform your life. Get your copy today on Amazon at the link in the description.
How epigenetic biomarkers reveal the impact of intergenerational trauma. Discover how epigenetic biomarkers help diagnose inherited trauma, offering new insights into family and transgenerational trauma for healing and hope. Epigenetic biomarkers, a new frontier in understanding generational trauma. Hey, have you ever wondered how the struggles and emotional pain from our family's past might actually be written into our biology? Like, how stuff that happened to our grandparents, or even great-grandparents, could somehow affect us today, not just in stories or habits, but in our very cells? Well, that's where epigenetic biomarkers come in. It sounds fancy, but it's basically these tiny biological markers that help scientists identify how environmental factors, including trauma, can influence gene expression across generations. Think of it as a biological post-it note stuck on our DNA that tells our body how to behave, sometimes based on events that happened long before we were born. Let me break it down for you. Epigenetics is the study of how certain factors switch genes on or off without changing the actual DNA sequence. So you inherit your DNA from your parents, but epigenetics is about how external factors, like stress, diet, or trauma, impact how those genes operate. And here's the mind-blowing part. Some of these epigenetic changes can be passed down through what scientists call intergenerational trauma or ancestral trauma. This means family trauma doesn't just live in stories or behavior. It can be biologically inherited. Now, epigenetic biomarkers are what researchers look for to actually measure this inheritance. They're like biological flags that show up in blood, saliva, or tissue samples, indicating changes caused by stress or trauma experienced by past generations. In practical terms, this means medical professionals could someday diagnose the impact of family trauma on an individual's health through these biomarkers. Why is this important? Well, for generations, psychological trauma from events like war, displacement, slavery, famine, or family violence was understood mostly as a social or psychological phenomenon. But with epigenetics, we're getting a more complete picture. We can look at the physical evidence, the inherited trauma, that shapes how our bodies and brains respond to stress today. This doesn't mean your life is doomed because of your family's past. Far from it. Knowing about these biomarkers opens the door to personalized treatments and therapies aimed at healing multi-generational wounds. For example, interventions could be designed to reset or influence epigenetic markers, potentially reducing the risk of mental health issues or chronic disease linked to inherited trauma. One resource that takes a compelling look at this concept and how to work through inherited emotional challenges is The Generational Algorithm. This book explores how understanding these biological codes can empower us to rewrite emotional patterns passed down through generations. If you're curious about how science and healing come together in this space, buy The Generational Algorithm now on Amazon and get insight into practical, science-backed ways to address your own inherited trauma. In the future, I believe this whole field will change how we approach everything from mental health to chronic illness. Multi-generational trauma isn't just history, it's part of our biology. And epigenetic biomarkers are the key to understanding and healing these invisible scars. So next time you hear about stress or trauma in your family tree, remember, it might be written not only in stories, but also deep down in your cells.